welcome to this edition of The Real Deal. I'm Kevin Pauly.
And I'm Brian Hatcher.
And today we are talking about one of the more interesting films that I've seen this year, and I think Brian would agree with me on this one. It is a dark and sinister tale, and it is based off of folklore, actually, of the New England area. It is The Witch, and it is a first-time film from director Robert Engels, which looks to be, to me, this is a film that, if this is his first movie, this guy's got a real future. Brian, you actually saw this before I did, and now, of course, we both had time to see it and think about it for a while. Your thoughts on The Witch? Because, man, this film kind of came out of nowhere.
Oh, it certainly did.
It really has stuck with me since I saw it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of The Witch, or if you read it phonetically, The Vivitch.
Vivitch, yeah, The Vivitch.
The Vivitch.
What a Vivitch.
The Vivitch. When I saw the film, I certainly enjoyed it, but I did realize that this may, for horror fans, especially fans that are used to slasher flicks or very graphic, violent films, that this might not necessarily be their cup of tea.
No,
but
this film definitely is on that 70s horror film vibe of the slow burn.
It's a
very slow burn.
It's very much a quiet horror, more psychological type of horror. But the thing about it is, I really enjoyed it because, again, it wasn't what I'm used to seeing in the theaters. I'm glad that it actually got a chance.
Yes.
And it also, just for movies in general, to show that, no, you don't need to have these overblown budgets to make an interesting film.
Right. This is a film that, honestly, it has so many things going for it. The least of which, honestly, the acting is phenomenal in this film. Everybody in the movie is amazing. The kids in particular are great. The girl who plays Thomasina is amazing. Wow, what great work she does.
Yeah, and brave.
Very brave work. Now, I'll also say this, man. The atmosphere of this film. That is where this film works at its finest, is the atmosphere. That sense of there's something in the woods, that not knowing what's going on. This is the kind of movie that you don't. Okay, now this is not like the party horror, horror party movie thing. Okay, but when Halloween's coming around and the leaves are turning on a dark, cool night, this is the kind of film you watch with the lights out, with maybe you and one other or two other people in the room with you, and just let the film kind of cast its spell, no pun intended, but cast its spell over you as far as the atmosphere, the mood. Because, man, this film is dripping with mood. It really is.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think that's something that we've lost in some of our modern horror films, is that we're so driven for that gross out, that sometimes
the high body count or whatever.
The high body
or
counts.
Even more importantly, like the jump scare upon jump scare upon jump scare.
Exactly.
This is a film that does not have any of that, and it's not interested in any of that.
No.
It's about getting under the skin. It's about getting under the surface and looking at the idea of these poor people in this very dark time, the 1600s. I mean, I will say this, the language of the film even. It's perfect. The lifestyle, the way they capture the lifestyle of the people of that time, it's perfect. It's absolute. I mean, you really understand why these people feared the unknown. They didn't know, and these were truly God-fearing people.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of thing where I'm like, that's what really this film, you hit it already. There's a psychological side to this. The idea of the family itself, the family dynamic of what happens if it starts to turn on itself.
Yeah.
And that's about as scary as, honestly, it can possibly get when you let this film really get into your mind.
Yeah.
Think about it. If you, as a teen, and by God, when we were all teens, I'm sure all of our parents wanted to, have nothing to do with this at point.
Right.
But what would happen if that really happened? What if you lived in this desolate place where you can't just go out and use your smartphone because they don't exist? You don't have anything but your family, and your family starts to turn on you. And not only that, but your family is accusing you of being the worst thing you could possibly be in the world at that time, and that is a witch. That is a terrifying place to be. And that's, you had said when you first saw it, that it's the kind of movie that once the ball starts rolling, that dread is building, and that there's really no escape once it starts.
Oh, absolutely. And the thing about it is, I mean, it's not a movie like a lot of these classic horror movies, or I should say the 80s, 90s horror films, where you take this innocent family, you stick them in a bad situation, and the evil forces just pick them off one by one.
Yeah, it's not like The Hills Have Eyes or Evil Dead or something of that nature.
They're not. I mean, in a sense, they're really not lambs for the slaughter as much as some of their own failings and distrust and lies to each other bring about their downfall.
Yes,
they
bring it upon themselves. I mean, you hate to say it, but they do. And the thing is, there is. We'll get into a little bit of spoiler territory. There is a witch. I mean, there really is. Like she's out there, and it's funny that. While one of the worst things in the film, of course, happens at her hand.
Yes.
Well, let's say two. Two of the worst things in the film happen by her hand. She's not, in all honesty, the ultimate evil of the film.
No.
The ultimate evil is the lack of trust and the breaking of the family dynamic. That is where the true terror of the film comes.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, you see that right at the beginning, They're out there for the, because of the pride of the father.
Yes.
That's kind of dragged his family into this situation. And, I mean, from the beginning, if there's one thing that this family seems to do more than anything else, it's lie.
Yes.
The father lies to the mother. The son and the daughter lie to the parents. The son lies to the parents. The daughter lies to
her little sister and brother.
Her little sister and little brother. I mean, it is a web of lies that they get caught up in.
The movie is almost a morality tale. I mean, honestly, it really is. And yes, there are supernatural elements. And then towards the end, of course, there's the big reveal, and there's a major supernatural element to it. And I won't say any more about it. But it's funny that really the ultimate terror from it comes from their own behavior.
Yeah.
These people who are so focused on being Christ-like. It's everything they're doing that's not Christ-like that is their ultimate downfall.
Oh, exactly. And, it's just like, I would compare it with, like, Night of the Living Dead, in that you have a monster in the zombies, but they're not the point.
Right.
It's what's going on inside the house and the dynamic between those people that's the point.
That's exactly, yes.
There's a witch in this story. And, yes, bad things happen because of this witch, but most of the bad things that happen aren't because of the witch, it's because of the dynamic of this family.
It's sort of that concept of, if evil is out there, evil is there, okay? But evil can't really do anything unless you invite it in.
Right.
And this family, through their own actions, is consistently inviting it in. And that's what's so interesting is, it's a film that when I first came out of the theater, I was like, okay. It's a pretty cool film. And then the next day, I was like, man, that really was a creepy movie. Like, man, do you remember that one scene? Like, that was really well done. And, man, that acting was so great. And, man, that one particular scene with the boy was fantastic. And, man, that little girl was so great. And man, the dad was awesome. And, man, the atmosphere. And it just, like, I have not stopped thinking about it now. And it's been weeks now. It's a couple of weeks since I've seen it. But I have not stopped thinking about it. Now, that's not me saying that this is like, the most terrifying film you've ever seen. No. And don't go into it, because unfortunately, much like Crimson Peak, it was advertised as something it's not.
Right.
This is, again, it's a slow burn. It's not, there's no like big, huge moment of, oh gosh, that was so terrifying. And there's no big, huge moment of, oh, there's all that gore or anything. I'm not saying there's not gore. There's some. Yeah. And by God, when it's used, it's effective as hell.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that there's not things that will, make you a little uneasy. There's definitely that, especially if you just let it go in with an open mind. But if you're expecting, slasher type, turnaround, if you're expecting high body count, if you're expecting lots of blood and gore, if you're expecting, crazy deaths, that kind of thing, then no, this is not going to be your cup of tea. This is a lot like, especially when you look at the film on different levels, it's a lot like The Shining.
Yes.
It's a lot like that. And the idea of, when it's all said and done, was there really a supernatural thing going on? Or is it all just the family? Is it all just Jack Torrance's mind?
Yeah.
And that's where this film kind of works. Now, they do show you the witch, but you honestly could have done this film and never shown her, and just made it the whole idea of, was it really there? Or did these people just do it to themselves?
Well, and that's still a viable interpretation of this film, because if it's all in the viewpoint of the daughter character, who's basically
Thomasina,
who's basically the protagonist, and this is all in her imagination, she may be the unreliable narrator. This is, and very much like in Birdman, there's all this weird stuff that happens is because the movie is shot from the viewpoint of someone who could be an unreliable narrator.
Yes.
And this is the exact same thing. So it could all be the hysterical imaginings of Thomasina. The movie doesn't really necessarily... I mean, if you take it for face value, yes, there's a witch. But you don't have to. And again, what makes this a good movie, and it's, why as a horror movie it's not as disposable as the protagonists in a lot of these horror movies, is because it allows you to sit and think about it. And I mean, you are, as a viewer watching this, as a part of the audience, you are part of the story, in a sense.
And actually, since you just said that, in my head, I've literally just thought, oh my God, yeah, you could totally say that it's this and this and this, and it's not in anything, shape, or form. Yeah, I mean, I've literally sat here in the few seconds you've been talking and said, yes, I can totally see how you could totally make it to where that witch does not even exist.
Because did you see the witch first, or did you hear Thomasina talk about the witch first?
That's true, and it
was a story. It was a story she was using to creep out her little brother and sister.
Yeah, it's a film. It's, again, still thinking about it. I'm still thinking about it with what you just said. It's the kind of movie. Now, again, this is not you get together with your friends at a Halloween party and throw this film in. It is not that kind of movie. It's not Friday the 13th. It's not Halloween. It's not Nightmare on Elm Street. It's not like The Conjuring or Saw or anything like that. No. Although I really like The Conjuring. The Conjuring is probably the closest of caliber film that I can put it to of modern horror, in that The Conjuring allowed for a slow burn to really get to know this family before they're really dragged through hell. And this film is very similar, only the difference is in this, there is no, going into it that there's not going to be like some knight in shining armor that's going to come help these people. That is not going to happen. So it's definitely a creepy film. As we wrap this up, Brian, do you recommend it? Would you recommend it? Who do you recommend it to?
Oh, I would absolutely recommend it. And even if you're the type of person who only watches Nightmare on Elm Street type of movies, slasher flicks, check it out, because you need to know what you're missing. You really do. But understand, just like Kevin said, this is not a movie that runs in the background. It's one that you have to engage.
Yes.
And it is something that will engage with you. But it certainly, again, it's not a movie that once you turn it off, it's over.
No, that's the best way to describe it. It's a short film. I don't think it was like an hour and a half long. It's a very short movie. And it's very economical with its time. There is no fat to trim. Everything has a point for when it happens in the film. Yeah. And especially now that you've just kind of said what you said, and I'm thinking about it that way, I'm like, oh my God, certain scenes completely play differently now for me thinking about it. And that's the sign of a great movie. So to me, I also recommend it. I recommend it to fans of true horror. I recommend it especially to fans of horror novels, horror fiction in that level, because it plays like that. It is based on a couple different folklore tales from the New England area, and it has that kind of vibe. It's definitely got something to offer. As Brian said, it's a movie that does not end when the credits roll. And I always say that's really one of the finest examples of what a good movie is if it keeps you thinking about it, even after it's all said and done. Good example, my friend Adam Taylor. Okay, we were talking about when he was working on my room up here. He said, I didn't like it. But then I started thinking about it, and I was like, man, that was really good. And then I was like, but man, they did that right. And that was so right. And boy, that one little girl was really good. And he's like, so now I'm to the point where I like it. I just had to realize it wasn't a slasher film. It wasn't what I wanted it to be. But it turns out it was still something really good. And maybe it's kind of what you were keying into. I didn't know what I was missing in horror until I saw this. Right. So that's really a good way to put it. So as we wrap up, again, if you've seen The Witch, let us know what you thought in the comments below. And again, please continue to subscribe on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. But again, let us know what you think. And did you find it as engaging as we did? And now that we've kind of talked about it and brought up a few different things, are you maybe thinking about it a little bit differently if you did see it? Again, this is one of those movies I think can definitely do that to you. So when Halloween comes up, if you're looking for something good to get you in the mood, I really would have to recommend the film on that level. I really, truly would. So as we wrap up, again, The Witch gets a thumbs up or an A or whatever you want to say from each of us. It definitely gets a you should watch it rating from your pals here at The Real Deal. So wrapping up for this edition from The Man Attic, I'm Kevin Polly.
And I'm Brian Hatch.
And we'll see you on the next edition of The Real Deal.